What is up, everybody? Welcome to another edition of Drive for Show, DFS for Dough, here on RotoGrinders. And if you're seeing us here talking golf on Tuesday nights, welcome. We appreciate you watching, whether you're watching live or checking us out on playback before the tournament. But busy time on the golf calendar. We've got the Waste Management Phoenix Open this week. Always a fun tournament to break down. Kind of getting into the meat of the late winter, early spring start of the PGA Tour season. Won't be too far along, and the Players' Championship will be here. So happy to be with you. As always, I am Justin Van Zuiden, STL Cardinals 84. I've got Mr. Notorious, Derek Farnsworth, alongside. Noto, how you doing?
Yeah, what's up? One of the best weeks of the year, Super Bowl, Waste Management. Just an awesome Sunday, and they always time it so that, leads right up to the Super Bowl, and then if there's a playoff, there's always that overlap.
Which it seems like it happens a lot in this tournament, the playoff or drama or something. The 1 year, what was it, Ricky and Matsuyama? I remember that one.
Webb and Finau, that was pretty good.
So that seems to happen a lot, but I think they ended up moving up the tee times a little bit on Sunday after they had playoffs like 3 years in a row or something like that. But still a very fun tournament with a pretty good field and, of course, a venue that everyone likes to talk about. And only one course in the mix, which helps as well. We don't have to mess around with the multi-course shot tracker, though that did end up working out okay last week with them using it on Pebble and Spyglass. So I don't know about you, but last week was a little bit weird for me in terms of DFS results. A lot of whiffs for me. Was pretty much off of Rory on a course that he didn't play a whole lot. It just wasn't my week, so it wasn't really even much of a sweat either, which made it a pretty easy week to just say, you know what, we'll move on to the next one.
Yeah, I mean, PGA Tour deserves credit. They got the double shot tracker working. I give them a hard time for a lot of things on this show. So give them some props for last week, but kind of similar. In my main lineup, I think all of my guys finished between T13 and T33. So they were close, but just not enough. Ended up bubbling in my main lineup, and then not a lot of success in MME. So kind of with you. But fun event. Always love Pebble. Good to see Rory McIlroy get back on the winning on the PGA Tour. And I don't know if you saw his post, but he said he posted like his Whoop numbers or whatever, tracking stats he used, and his recovery from the night before wasn't very good Monday morning. So I thought that was pretty funny.
Yeah, good to see him win. I mean, always a fan of Rory, just wasn't banking on it being last week. And my one and done pick was Justin Thomas, who had like the second best round on Spyglass on Thursday, led the field in approach play. And so I was getting all excited that, could be JT's week. And then he was largely pretty terrible the last three rounds, all of those in the 70s. So he dipped down to 48th. But Rory got the win. Shane Lowry, Lucas Glover, Justin Rose, Russell Henley, Cam Davis rounding out your top five. Sepp Straka was in the mix again on Sunday, but couldn't get much going in that final round. Billy Horschel, Scotty Scheffler, Taylor Pendrith, Tom Kim were your other finishers inside the top 10. So a pretty solid leaderboard, a mix of values and higher end guys there, but did not have a ton of exposure myself to the top 10 last week. Seems like Scheffler answered any questions that people might have about him health-wise. Good to go, and he's back in the field this week. So any other takeaways from last week for you before we turn the page to Phoenix?
Yeah, any PGA Tour execs out there listening, just give us a cut. We don't need a big one in these signature events. Just a little cut, give us an extra sweat. Just makes the event.
There was 80 golfers last week?
Uh-huh.
Yeah, cut it to 50.
Cut it to 50.
Yeah, cut it to 50.
Then
you got like an 80 golfer field and you cut it to 50. That is basically what the Masters does.
Yeah. And I don't love that, like, guys that get into the signature events, even if they finish dead last, are getting a bunch of money and, FedEx Cup points. It's just kind of weird.
Yeah, it is. The whole mechanics of the point system are weird, and you need basically to be an actuary or have some type of fancy degree to figure it out. Which is even as a CPA beyond my pay grade, trying to figure out the PGA Tour point system. So would be nice if there was something a little more straightforward, but they continue to make it more complicated to try to, help compete with Live or whatever it is. I don't know. We've got TGL League back on tonight. On Tuesday, they've been swapping that around between Mondays and Tuesdays. I haven't looked to see who's playing tonight, but that'll be on later tonight as well. And let's go ahead and move to Phoenix Open. Always a fun tournament. We've got a course that has been used for a number of years. Just the one course, leading up to the football game on Sunday. I know Noto has attended before. Big party on the 16th hole there at the Waste Management, which some golfers like better than others, but it's kind of part of the deal when you play in this tournament. You're going to get that party crowd there on the back nine. So what do we know for the course this week?
That's funny. My friend, who probably can't name 3 professional golfers, is going to the event because it's a party. This is the one event of the year where you have more just fans of the experience than you do of golf, and it's a lot of fun. But TPC Scottsdale, par 71, just over 7,200 yards. It's one of those courses where a lot of risk and reward holes. The par fives, a couple of them have water in play. One of them has like that waste area in play. Then you have the drivable par 4 17th. You have the stadium 16th. So a lot of risk reward holes, and this is the most driver-heavy course on the PGA Tour, I think, except for Augusta National. So you're going to hit a lot of drivers. Going to have to drive the ball well. There's not a big penalty if you do miss the fairway, if you're playing from the rough. If you end up in the desert, then obviously that's going to be a problem. But big driver course. I think it's a good ball striker course too. We've seen Hideki crush here over the years. We've seen Scotty Scheffler crush here. Justin Thomas has a great track record. So just one of those courses where you typically get a good winner, and a lot of it comes down to ball striking. The greens are pretty big, easy to hit, so that does lessen the importance of around the green a little bit. And then, you just kind of have to really buckle down there on the last 4 or 5 holes.
Yeah, always a fun stretch there when you get to the back nine with the iconic party hole there, the par 3, the drivable par 4. There's a par 5 in that mix as well. If you look at 15, 16, 17. So 15 is a 553-yard par 5. 553-yard par 3 would be a big boy golf hole, but 553-yard par 5, that is reachable in 2, but you got to hit over water to get to the green. Then the stadium par 3, and then the drivable par 4 with water on the left-hand side. So a lot of make or break kind of holes there. You can go a couple under, you can have a birdie streak. You can go a couple over if you're hitting it a little bit wayward and hitting it in the water. So pretty fun set of holes. And then, the 18th hole is no gimme either to close things out. So I like the closing stretch of holes here. As Noto mentioned, a driver heavy course, tee to green play, pretty much entirely what I am looking at this week. And no surprise that we generally see the best all-around golfers and sometimes the bigger hitters as well succeed here. So, all right, so let's go ahead and dig into the player pool. We'll maybe do a snake draft at the end of the show. As usual, if you're interested in potentially doing a snake draft, post a message in the YouTube chat so that I know we've got enough people. Last week, we entered 2 different ones, and of course, I cashed in the one that ended up not being the one we did on air, just the one that we did to fill time or fill another draft so we could open a brand new one up. So naturally cashed in the auto draft one, but got $8 back on the $10 I spent. So only a $2 loss for the entertainment value last week. All right, player pool this week. I mentioned we got Scheffler back in the mix, seemed healthy last week. He's got 4 straight ridiculously good finishes here. 2 of them are wins. He's 12K on DraftKings, probably back to the point where he deserves the conversation by himself. T9 last week after not playing competitively for a while. What are we doing with Scheffler?
Yeah, I mean, from a betting perspective, I don't think I can bet him at plus 280 to win.
That's just crazy number. That's a crazy number.
Crazy number. But from a DFS perspective, I mean, it's hard for me to see him really struggling. I mean, he could end up in the optimal even if he finishes 10th. just because there's a lot of good plays in the 7K range. And I don't know, it feels like he's probably going to finish better than 10th. I don't know. First, and third here the last 3 years. You mentioned last week was his first week back, and he led the field in strokes gained approach by almost a stroke and a half. So the irons were great. He lost strokes around the green, which is not something that you usually see from Scheffler. He lost almost 2 strokes over the 4 days. So he's my favorite.
Have you looked at all of his odds or just his winning odds?
I have not looked at the other odds, but
so what do you think his top 20? DraftKings doesn't have top 10 posted yet. They only have top 20. So what do you think his top 20 odds are?
It's got to be minus 400.
Yeah, it's minus 700. Yeah. Comparatively speaking, Justin Thomas is next highest at minus 165. It's only minus 700 on top 20. That is.
So yeah, his top 5 is minus 120.
Yeah, that's crazy. Anyway,
so I kind of made this argument at this point last year where if he's going to be greater than 50% chance to finish in the top 5 and he's only going to be 40% owned, I think you should be overweight.
Yeah, I'm hopping back on the train this week too. I don't want to be the foolish one that misses the entire Scheffler bandwagon and then goes homeless for the summer because I didn't play Scheffler at all. So with his course history and the fact that off the tee and tee to green play is so important here, and that's where he excels. I mean, the putter he's not an elite putter by any means, but he's respectable enough now. It's no longer a liability, and all the tee to green stuff over whatever lengthy stretch you want to look at, he's going to be at the top. So back on the Scheffler bandwagon this week, I said I'll probably put him in about half my lineups. We've got his projected ownership in the mid to upper 30s. He'll probably be in about half for me, and that's probably where I'll lock him in and be overweight 10 to 15% on the field. So that is my stance. And part of that discussion is I agree. I think there's some interesting value this week that you can look to. So it helps fit him in even at 12K. I even did one lineup just messing around with Scheffler and Thomas, and I didn't think it looked completely awful. Now that part of that hinges on how you feel about the value guys, but probably won't do too many Scheffler Thomas builds, but probably will keep the one that I put together here before the show. So the other golfers above 10K are Thomas, who you mentioned, pretty good history here. Matsuyama's had some success here, and Sam Burns also at 10K. What are you thinking about with those 3 guys?
It's kind of weird. It's one of those weeks where I like all the guys above 10K and then don't love the 9K range. It's usually I like one guy above 10K and love the 9Ks. But yeah, I mean, JT just had a really bad week with the putter last week. But I mean, look at his course history. And prior to that, he had a couple top 3 finishes recently. He's got 5 straight top 15 finishes here. Again, this is all about tee to green, and that's where he excels. He's one of the worst putters up here, but yeah, I gotta love his off the tee, and he's added some speed too. So he's hitting it farther than he ever has, which I like. Then you have Hideki, who we used to play here every single year. His course history over the last 5 years isn't as good as it used to be, but yeah, he used to be the Scheffler at this event. We were just locking him in, and so I like him. I like Sam Burns. He's been playing pretty well. The irons have gotten a little bit cold, but he's one of those guys that can light it up on the greens. Very good driver of the ball. Back-to-back top 6 finishes here. So I really can't poke a hole in anyone above 10K, but I do want to get 60 to 70% of Scheffler, so I probably won't have a ton of the other 3.
Yeah, it makes it hard to fit a lot of them in. Like I said, I did one Thomas Scheffler build, but I didn't do 10 of them. It's you got to go hunting for a ton of value if you want to do that on a significant chunk of your lineup. So for me, Scheffler would be the priority. Thomas is probably the next guy that I would choose if I had unlimited salary, but I mean, it's no surprise, right? Those guys are the 2 most expensive on the board for a reason. So we'll have one build with both of them. We'll have some Thomas. We'll probably be underweight on most of the other guys in this range for the salary restrictive reasons that you hinted at there. So all right, let's go ahead and move into the 9K range. Pretty lengthy list here. Though, some names that maybe we're not quite used to seeing. Sungjae, Connors, Tom Kim, Tigala, who has pretty good course history here as well. Straka up at 9,400. Interesting with how hot he's been to start the year. Couple of potential back-to-back wins for him if he would have kept it together on Sunday last week. And you got Højgaard up here as well with McIntyre, Benny on. Don't love the 9K range quite as much, particularly the bottom portion of it, but I do like Tom Kim. He doesn't have quite as much distance as a lot of the other guys that I am targeting this week, but did finish T7 last week. Had a lot of fun, obviously, on the TGL broadcast with Tiger and Rory a week ago. Seems to be a real like crowd pleaser. Certainly will, like the atmosphere more so than some of the other golfers. So Tom Kim is the guy I'll highlight in the 9s, but don't love the range overall outside of him. What are you looking at in here?
Yeah, so I actually heard Tom Kim was like 30 minutes late to their first PGO practice that Tiger wanted to host, and maybe that's the reason why he didn't play the first match. I'm not.
He's already getting himself in trouble.
But he made up for it with his performance in the second match. But yeah, I don't mind Tom Kim. He's one of those guys that tends to string together good finishes. My favorite is going to be Tagala. He hasn't been great so far this year, but if you look through his game log, he's one of those guys that he'll go 4 or 5 events while not looking good and then pop up for a top 10. He's 3 for 3 here with 2 top 5 finishes. I want to say it was 2022 when he had the lead going into the 17th hole on Sunday, ended up hitting a perfect drive and just had a little too much adrenaline. Ended up going through the green, over into the backwater, and then he ended up bogeying that hole and just barely losing out. So he loves the course, and right now less than 10% ownership, which I like a lot. Probably not going to have anyone else in this range. Like I don't want to play Seth Straka at 20% ownership and then elevated price point. Hoygaard seems overpriced. Maybe a little Benny on, but I don't love the 9Ks.
Yeah, I don't either. Kim is the one guy I'll play. I don't mind, sprinkling in somebody else. Tigala is another guy that it's kind of hard to put a pulse on where he's going to play well, as we've talked about a lot of times, but he clearly likes playing here when you look at his results too. So, but Kim, and I might only end up with a couple guys from this range in my player pool. Again, with trying to prioritize Scheffler and then still getting some exposure to the other 10K players. There just has to be a spot where you cut some guys out, and that's probably going to be this 9K range for me. All right, so let's go ahead and move into the 8Ks then. A pretty lengthy list of golfers. We can probably split this up into a couple tiers, but the upper part of the 8Ks, Kitayama, Maverick McNeely, Jordan Spieth was back in action last week and finished T69. So just not a great week for him. Now, for some reason, he's $8,700, but he has finished T6, T6, and T4 here, 3 of the last 4 years. Again, you know that I'm never super high on Spieth, but worth noting that course history is probably why he's priced where he is. Greiserman and Wyndham Clark also in the top part of the 8K range. Anybody you like out of that group?
I was wondering where you were going with that Spieth intro. Thought maybe you were locking him in.
No.
You had to guess.
There's just been nothing there for so long at this point. I know he's been good here, but
where would you say he's ranked in my model with course history pretty heavily weighted?
Ooh, pretty heavily. Well, that's got to give him a bump. It has to. So, so it's funny because I kind of did my own just rabbit hole putting stuff together. And he came out 96 in that. I'm guessing if you're rating course history a little heavy, he's got to be higher than 96, but I'll say like 80.
Yeah, 57. So
okay.
Still pretty bad. Because I'm not on Spieth either. The model loves Kitayama, so I really weighted ball striking and course history and strokes gained in desert courses, and he's top 10 in all 4 of those, off the tee, approach, desert, and course history. So I don't know what to do with that. He's finished 8th and 23rd here the last 2 years. He's been pretty bad so far this year, but if he's not going to be popular, I'll probably play some of him. McNeely's interesting. Do we think Greiserman just withdrew because he was playing so bad last week?
Yeah, I don't know. It's tricky though with the guaranteed payout though. I mean, it's not like he's a 40-year-old guy just playing for, no need for cash at this point. I mean, I'm sure he's doing fine, but I don't know. I'm not 100% convinced.
That's true. So does he not get any money for that? Again, I haven't looked at, and you need an advanced science degree to figure it out these days, but I didn't
I didn't think so. I thought you at least had to finish.
Yeah,
but I could be wrong. I could be wrong.
On ESPN, it doesn't show him getting any money. So.
Yeah. Because remember, there was I think they changed that rule because there was one year in one of those no-cut events where it was
Daniel Berger.
Somebody hit like one shot and then said, "I'm off to the beach."
I remember very clearly. He was definitely in my lineup. Yeah, that wasn't very fun. So that does worry me about Grazerman. Wyndham Clark, this hasn't been good. I don't know what to do with him. Do you have any strong takes in this range? Maybe Bhatia?
Yeah, not really. I think Clark is fine. I mean, if you're going to prioritize off the tee, I think his last two events have been really bad, though. So there's just not a lot in here either. Kitayama, I don't mind. Clark, I'll probably keep in my player pool. We've seen upside from Clanton, and he was T15 at the Farmers, which is another driver-heavy course. So, yeah, it feels a little uncomfortable to play Clanton at 8,300 in a stronger field event. But, yeah, he'll probably land in my player pool as well.
Yeah, I don't mind that one. He rates out pretty well for me. It's hard to know how they'll react to this atmosphere. He's never played here before, but he's a younger guy, so he'll probably.
I was gonna say he's a 20-year-old, 19-year-old, 18-year-old, whatever. I don't know how old he is. But.
I think my favorite guy in the 8K is probably Siwoo Kim. Pretty good finish last week, T12, really good course history here. It was funny, he was dead last in course history before 2020, and since then he's just gotten better and better every year. So I like him quite a bit at 8K.
Yeah, I like him as well. And Poston again, another guy that's maybe not a longer hitter, but kind of can make up for it with some short game play. And he is, over the last 24 rounds, 12th in this field off the tee, which surprised me a little bit. Has missed the cut the last 2 years at this event, but was 2 top 25s back-to-back before that. So don't mind him as well if you think this is somewhat of a weaker range. And we've got both Kim and Poston at 10% ownership, which I think is respectable enough. So both of those guys are in play for me, but on the whole, probably underweight on the 8s, underweight on the 9s, and significantly overweight on a lot of players in the 7s, which fit those Scheffler, Thomas type of builds, because there's just a lot of guys in here that I think feel like they aren't that much worse than the 8K players, and they're priced, at a discount, which every dollar helps when you're trying to get Scheffler into those lineups this week. So tons of names in here. I'll let you start it off, though. 7,500 to 8K. What do you like?
Yeah, favorite play here is Billy Horschel, which sounds a little weird. But T9 last week, he's been playing well. Really good course history. He hasn't missed the cut here since 2014, so I think that's 10 or 11 straight. A couple top 10s here. And yeah, he's just been playing well. He's one of those guys that I kind of trust too in these bigger fields and in these stronger events. We've seen him win the Memorial. We've seen him win the match play. So he's not scared of these strong fields. Probably my favorite in the 75 to 7,900 range. I like Keith Mitchell, your boy. 3rd and 13th the last couple of starts was T33 and T21 his last 2 starts. He's been pretty good here the last 5 years as well. And then I think the one everybody's going to play is Sam Stevens. Back-to-back good finishes, really good driver of the ball. Played well here last year. But I do think
I don't know why he's that cheap. He should be like $1,000 more.
Yeah, I think he's a strong play for sure.
Yeah, so I've gotten Mitchell wrong basically since the Stone Age. And I'm back on him this week, so that is probably the kiss of death. So I apologize in advance if you're playing Keith Mitchell, but if you're on Team Bomber, Team Scorer, rip it off the tee. It's hard not to like Mitchell, especially at 7,500. So if it goes south, you can blame me. As long as he can keep it out of the water, should be fine. You mentioned the strong finishes, and then at this event, 2 top 20s the last 3 years also. So the course history is pretty solid. So I'm in on Mitchell, but plenty of other names in this range as well. Stevens, who Noto mentioned, his ownership will undoubtedly end up being higher than what we have it at right now. Matt Fitzpatrick is another interesting one that we have not seen a ton from Fitzpatrick lately in the way of positive results, but he is cheap. I mean, 7,700 for Fitz is Pretty reasonable price point. He's finished 10th, 29th, and 15th here the last 3 years, plus 20 strokes over field average. We know he's got a little bit more distance now than he used to have, so that should serve him well on this course. So I think at depressed ownership, depressed salary, I'm in on Fitz here. I think he's a really strong GPP option at 7,700. Otherwise, yeah, Stevens and Mitchell. I mean, you can make a case for Eckroat. You can make a case for Davis Thompson. You can make a case for Spawn. Just a lot of those guys feel like they're not that much worse of options than guys who are priced $1,000 above them. So any other thoughts there? Otherwise, you can go down into the lower sevens.
Yeah, Twitter pointed out today that Fitzpatrick's been one of the most vocal guys on slow play, and he got paired up with Brian Harmon this week. So the tour's getting back at him for hating on slow play. One other guy, Minwoo Lee. So he's a bomber. He's a good putter. A little bit better form recently. Was 17th last week, and if there's anybody that's going to love a crowd and all that, it's going to be Minwoo Lee. Let him cook. You know he's going to have a bunch of tweets ready to fire off every round. So I think he's interesting. He's not a guy that I play a lot, and he's usually pretty popular. So if we can get him cheap price point, under 10% owned, I like that quite a bit.
Right, yeah, don't mind that call. And then as we go towards the bottom part of the 7K range, Charlie Hoffman always turns back the clock here. He's another guy, seems like he's leading after the first round every time. Ben Griffin in here, probably off of him on a more driver-heavy course, but I've been saying that I said that about Novak a couple weeks ago as well, and he finished third. So sometimes you never know, but who are you looking at in the lower part of the 7K range?
Yeah, this is the event where Hoffman had to take a drop on the par 5, number 13, I think, because he hit it in the water, and then he dropped his ball, and that ball went in the water, and he got extra penalized, and then he went off on the tour at 2 in the morning that night. I don't know if you remember that, but he ended up.
I remember the double. I don't remember him going nuclear. I mean, kind of. I guess it's coming back a little bit. I remember the ball in the water.
There was a big apology tour after that, but yeah, I mean, he's been playing well. It's hard to really make a case against them. I don't hate it. Other ball strikers in this range that I like, you have Lucas Glover, your boy Doug Gim, Ben Griffin. I don't know what's good Ben Griffin. He rates out pretty well for me, but I like him in the weaker fields a little bit more. I think Taylor Moore's interesting. He's had a couple good finishes so far this year. He's 2 for 2 at this event. Anybody else do you have your eye on?
Yeah, I don't mind the Moore call. I think at that salary, he's certainly an interesting option. Don't have a whole lot of other plays at the bottom part of the 7K range. Seamus Power was 17th last week. I'll sprinkle in a couple of guys in my player pool, but as of right now, I've got I think 7 guys from 7,500 to 7,900. So that's going to be most of them. Pretty decent dip in either off the tee play or current form for a lot of these guys in that 7.7 flat to $7,400 range. Thor Bjornsson is another guy that might be worth a GPP sprinkle. He's played 2 events so far this year and hasn't looked good, but he had a couple top 10s in the fall swing. Kind of a risk reward type of play right at 7K that right now I'll probably put him in a few tournament lineups as well.
Forgot about Eric Cole. Got to bring him up every week. I was listening to the Pat Mayo show, and he had Cam Stewart on, and he calls him Eric Cole Kane because he can't get enough of him. I thought that was pretty good because I'm the same way. I just play him every single week, no matter what. I always bet him, and he never wins. But yeah, I like him this week too.
Got to get him in the mini tour, then that way he'll win. All right, maybe at this point we can try to fire up a snake draft. Sometimes the YouTube stream does weird things with my speakers, and my speakers were acting up before the show, so I'm afraid to open the YouTube stream. But do we have any comments on people wanting to do a snake draft in there?
We have one.
Well, let's try to fill one up. There's a $5 that's 1 out of 6, so I'm going to hop in there. If you're not familiar, we usually do a snake draft at the end of the show, $5 entry on DraftKings. Search for Snake Draft Golf. for the full week, and there is a $5 snake draft with 6 entries. That's now 3 of 6. So hop in there. We can do one of those as we round out the show, and once we get that filled up, I can snag the screen share. Wait till that happens. We're at 3 of 6 now, so hop in there. While we do that, wait for that to hopefully fill. Let's look at the bottom, the 6Ks. Again, if you're on Team Bomber this week, I don't mind taking a shot on somebody down here. Knapp would be one. Couple top 35s in a row. Nothing special. I'm always a sucker for Chris Goddard, so I will absolutely be putting him in some lineups this week. That will probably blow up in my face, but he can hit the ball a long way. So driver heavy course, and at 6,500, I had no choice but to put him in the Scheffler-Thomas combo lineup that I built, which left me with just 68.75 per player for my other 4 spots. So Goddard was the choice. But I mean, you got decent players down here. Hadwin, Seabez. I mean, they haven't been in the best of form, but they're in the 6Ks for the first time in a while. So anybody the model likes or that you're comfortable with down here?
Yeah, I like Patrick Rogers at 6,900. He's played this event quite a bit. T22 last week. Carson Young, anytime you get him on a course with really big greens, I like him because he can't chip. But he's really, he's good off the tee, good on approach, pretty good putter. He's just like dead last and around the green. He's 6,500. And then maybe Luke List, kind of similar to Carson Young in that the short game's bad, but he can get it out there too. So I'll probably play a few of these guys. Patrick Fishburne, he was like 9K a couple months ago. I think it could be an interesting spot for him. He's only 6,800.
Yeah, I don't mind that call either.
Don't mind your bomber call. Who was it?
Goddard.
Yeah, I like him too.
Yeah, the limit of 1 on those guys for me on the Godderups and the Luke Lists. We're at 5 of 6 in the snake draft, by the way. If you're listening and you're debating, $5, join in and we will fill this up and get it done. So we will hopefully get on to that soon, and I'll give that a couple more minutes, hopefully, to fill. I don't have anybody else in my player pool that we haven't touched on yet. So any hot takes for the football game? I could not be less interested. I know it's the Super Bowl and all. I could not be less interested.
I know. I was hoping for anyone but the Chiefs and anyone but the Eagles, and we get them both. I would have loved the Bills Lions Super Bowl or Ravens Lions. I know you were obviously cheering for the Ravens, but
I would have taken Ravens anybody.
yeah,
but that didn't happen. So yeah, I feel bad for Lamar and Josh Allen. They're just blocked by Mahomes every time. So
yeah, I'm probably going to bet on the Eagles because I don't want to cheer for the Chiefs.
There you go. Bet on the coin toss. And then you can either sweat free the rest of the day or it's done. All right. This has been one person short of filling, and we can't quite get over the hump there. So if it doesn't fill in about 20 seconds, we're just going to cut the cord on it this week, and we'll try to bring it back next week. But all right, I think that's it. If somebody joins, we can. Oh, right on time. Right as I was getting ready to send us to the exit music. Saved by the bell. All right. I will do the screen share here. I got the second pick. No, I don't want the second pick.
It's not bad.
I suppose not.
Good week to get first in the snake draft.
All right, second pick for me, third pick for Noto. Tug Rules Tug Rules finished last week. He's losing his mojo with the snake drafts.
When does spring training start? It always starts earlier than.
Yeah, the games start like the 20th-ish. I think teams report usually around Valentine's Day. I can't even really get super pumped for baseball because my teams, the Cardinals, probably going to be very good. They have 0 free agent signings, like not even a fringe guy. Like they're just going with the youth guys and seeing who pans out, and who knows, maybe they'll be better than expected, but they have kind of went the wrong way with their GM decisions the last few years. So I'm a huge baseball fan, so I'll get into it still, but it's not like I'm gearing up for a World Series run. It won't be too many more years, and then everybody will be hating the Dodgers as much as they hate the Chiefs right now.
Yeah.
Buying everybody. Baseball desperately needs a salary cap, but it's never going to happen with the way they do their collective bargaining. So if you're not interested in sticking around for the snake draft, certainly we understand. Took us a few minutes to fill it up this week, and I went through most of the small talk topics while we were waiting for that to fill. But if you are exiting, do hit that thumbs up button on the YouTube stream. We appreciate that. Subscribe to the channel. You can get notifications whenever we go live. Big time of the year still with hoops and hockey and golf and all that good stuff, and won't be too long before baseball gets started up. So the NBA All-Star break is coming up pretty soon, so you'll maybe get a little. Are you still doing a bunch of NBA writing?
Every day. That's why I'm excited for baseball.
So you get a little break there for the All-Star break coming up.
Yeah, I'll get bored like 2 days in, and then that's how it works.
My apologies. I got sidetracked, and then I let the timer go down for my pick, even though I always rail against whoever's slowing the draft down, and then I did it myself. So my apologies to the fellow compatriots for making you wait. So the Luka trade, what was your reaction to that the other day?
I mean, I still don't understand it. But yeah, like everyone else, I was about to go to bed and then saw that pop up on my timeline and thought it was fake for a minute, but kind of crazy.
I was sleeping because I'm old and I am a time zone ahead of you, so at least I can claim that I didn't go to bed at 9 on a Saturday or whatever it was. But yeah, it was pretty crazy. Would have thought that they could have netted a pretty big return if they opened that up to anybody. But
I love that Danny Ainge had to get in there for a couple second-round draft picks.
Yeah, there's always
Always
little trades over the last couple of weeks. I'm like, they're talking about all these trades, and I'm like, oh, then Utah just throws something in there at the end and gets part of the deal.
Eventually, he's got to use some of these draft picks or trade them or something.
They're going to own the entire draft in 2060. Of every pick in the 2060 NBA draft, maybe 2040. Spieth going number 13. I
did not have that on my bingo card.
Really don't love this range. I don't love Straka, but I got to take him at 14, I think.
Hey, somebody take Horschel already? Jeez.
Guy took Horschel and Spieth on the turn. BG money.
Ooh, Kitayama's still there. I should have taken him.
Yeah, quite a bit of variation in where guys will get picked this week. I would think if you do a lot of these, there's going to be a lot of different spots where certain guys go. So
yeah, it seems like everyone from like 8 to 9,900 is very interchangeable.
Yeah, and that's part of the reason why I like the 7Ks so much. It just feels like there's not a whole lot of difference, even if you go down to 7,500 with a lot of those guys. So could be wrong, but it's a field that has a few guys at the top and then pretty loaded in the middle. We've got one sitter here. I think this was probably the person that was in the draft before we got in.
He'll get auto drafted. It's round 7, don't worry.
Yeah, last round. That's the very last pick of the draft too. So that'll be no sweat for that one.
All right. The park's still there.
Back.
Is Cam Young ever going to be good again?
The Magic 8 Ball says maybe. The waters are murky.
For sure. Who's more likely to post the top 10 in a major, Zalatoris or Cam Young this year?
I go with Zalatoris. He's looked all right. One of the majors. I mean, and they're typically harder courses too, which I'll take Zalatoris. Ricky Fowler.
Oh,
PG money off the board.
Seems to be his event too.
That must be he's going for team full course history with Scheffler, Horschel, Spieth, and Fowler.
For sure. Oh, took Minwoo from me? I do like Minwoo a lot this week. I need to tag him.
Who's that?
The guy you just took.
Oh, Minwoo. Okay, I cut out for a second. I thought that's what you meant. Ooh, Mitchell there. If Mitchell trolls me, and at least he doesn't hurt my snake draft, because I'll have too much in DFS for sure.
Probably Mac's the guy that I just never play. I like him.
Well, he's like 9K this week too. I mean, I play him.
I play him at the Scottish, and that's about it.
There goes Cam Young. Speaking of. See all these interchangeable guys like round 2, and you could reverse round 2 and round 5, and it doesn't look a whole lot different.
Yeah.
All right. They finally put him on auto draft.
Crazyman's got to be a pick here.
Apparently, everyone's scared.
I'll take him with the bench spot.
I don't know why this pop-up. I've never seen this. Unable to retrieve next picks. Never seen that. Computer may or may not explode. Oops, something went wrong. Well, I'm probably going to get auto-drafted with Spawn anyway because it seems to have logged me out. Well, that explains it.
Log you out mid-draft?
I've been actively doing the snake draft and got randomly logged out. I do not understand. Well, I took Spawn, and that's who I was going to take anyway, so no harm, no foul.
Has Berger played well here before?
Let's see. I got it up somewhere. T28, miscut, T9. But that was 4 or 5 years ago. He's yours if you want him. You know what? There's not a whole lot of difference this week, so I'm going to get on my Goddard up train. Last pick. Top 10. Here we come. Oh, my boy Dunlap. I like that. I always play some Dunlap, especially on a driver-heavy course. All right. And the last pick was auto-drafted. Shout out to the auto-pick rules. JT, McNeely, Straka, Clanton, Minwoo Lee, JJ Spawn, and Goddard up for me. Matsuyama, Benion, Siwoo, Wyndham Clark, Keith Mitchell, Grazerman, and Davis Thompson for Noto. And that's it for the week. So, as always, thanks for tuning in. I went about 45 minutes this week. So, good show. Noto, thanks as always for joining me. Of course, I'm Justin. Thanks to Steve for producing, working hard behind the scenes for us on a Tuesday night. We hope you all have a great week, everybody. Enjoy the golf. Enjoy the football game. We'll catch you back here next Tuesday. See you later.